Homer led the league in tackles with 85. The deep ball for Darius Prince, and Philadelphia's on the board first.
On the draw, this is Bryson Allen. And Allen weaving his way all the way down to the 22.
10-yard line, 5. Mayfield, Dancy, all around. Throwing as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
And you want to be a wide receiver. You're going to have to take a little bit of a hit like that as Brown got him in that shoulder, but watch. Those are teeth.
Do we have a dentist on staff here?
All right, we are back with another episode of Around the Indoor Football World. We have some very special guests later on today, so very excited for this episode. I think it's going to be a good one, but before we get into that, TJ, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Cannot complain. Looking forward to today. It's been kind of on my mind all week. There's been quite a bit of stuff to talk about. In fact, before we get going on this episode, I want to remind you guys we have a question of the day. And that question of the day revolves around points. If you were paying attention to Twitter earlier this week, Steve Titus posed a point that he believes hold that. Krish, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, coming off a good win. It's just always good to start your weekend right. So I'm doing great.
Absolutely. Mass got back on the snide with a big win, which we'll talk about here shortly. But basically to go back to that subject, if you were paying attention to Twitter earlier this week, Steven Titus posed a point that he would like to see higher scoring in the AF1. So we kind of piggybacked off that this week. So the question of the week is, should the AF1 go back to the 3 and 4 point conversions that the AFL had last season? And also, if you have any scoring ideas outside of that, go ahead and add those in the chat as well, and we'll get those pulled up. But without further ado, we're going to start off with our IFL section. And one of the big subjects that we wanted to talk about was Mass, getting another win. So who better than to join us than offensive coordinator Martino Tias. Coach Tias, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for joining us.
Just blessed this morning. How are you?
Absolutely. Krish, if you want to go ahead and kick us off on this one, that's all you, buddy.
Yeah, Coach, appreciate you joining us this morning. I kind of want to talk to you about, the offensive room as a whole, with the coaches, with Coach Tatum, Coach Mosley, Coach Gilliard, 2 of your former players. Talk to me about how much of a collaborative effort it's been to really turn the ship in the right direction.
Well, I mean, I call it basically, I used to call it the triangle offense, at first because, Coach Mosley, I coached him in Duke City. Coach Marty Gilliard, he was a receiver of mine in Monterey. And actually, Coach Mike Tatum, we go back in the past as far as, just here and there as far as, being around the leagues and stuff. So, and the knowledge that we have and we share is just well in the room. Like, we collaborate all together as one. And my stand on the board and my stand on the field and my stand in the locker room, together we will. And actually, that's what happens, in the locker room.
Absolutely. It sounds like a good working atmosphere there, which is obviously super important to team success. How was it for you to join the Pirates kind of mid-season on the fly like it was, and then kind of turn around the offense as quick as you have?
Well, just knowing the Pirates, just knowing the Massachusetts Pirates organization and by myself being in the IFL, it's just basically, it was an easy fit for me, because I'm known for just coming into good organizations, and actually, it was not an adjustment for me to come in on the fly because I ended the last seasons with Duke City. So with me, it was just a sudden. It was me. I call it sudden change. It was just a sudden change for me, and actually for me to come in on the fly, for me to have all the athletes and the coaches and the back end of the organization, which it makes an easy transition for myself.
Makes perfect sense. I have to step away real quick. Krish, can you take control? Sweet. Thanks, man.
Yeah, Coach, I want to ask you about our rookie quarterback, Kenji Bahar. At times he's been up and down all season, but I feel like he's really turning the corner. Talk to me about your relationship with him.
I mean, our relationship is really good between me and Kenji. We kind of feed off each other. We kind of bounce our ideas off each other, and actually, he's starting to turn the curve. Like when I first got him, it was kind of I want to say it was not a learning curve for him. It was more of just a little bit more board talk with him. Just more board talk by him being in the IFL, by him knowing the rules, by him knowing the boxes, by him knowing the defenses that he's about to see. And I think he's starting to see it once. We've already played maybe about 4 or 5 games already. So he basically done seen every defense that he's about to face for the rest of the season. So right now, I think he's starting to turn the curve really, really well.
Right, and another question I had is about our running back room. We got Puka, obviously he leads the league in all running back stat categories, despite playing 2 less games. And then we have Roberto, right, who's a really great power back. Do you envision an offense where both of them play down the line?
By doing by roster moves and roster changes, it could possibly happen. But by us having a 21-man roster, it's kind of hard to fit both of them in there at the same time. But, it's called a team collective effort. Like I said, together we will. If Puka goes down, I got Roberto. If Roberto goes down, I got Puka. So it's kind of like a collective effort between it's a team effort between all of us. It's like our backups that we have on the team. Everybody have to know their role. Everybody have to play their role. Everyone have to know that everybody not gonna play each and every week. So that's why we go out and bust our tails at practice to let us see who's gonna play each and every week. Now, does the roster change? Yes, it does. As you can see, the roster changed over the bye week. We had a lot of transactions go on. So maybe you can look at that by, just we go by production in the Massachusetts Parish. If you don't get production, then, you have to leave, So we're starting to get our production point down pretty nice right now. By coming out the bye week, going into this stretch, we have nothing but division games. And, by looking at it last night, we have like 4 division games going neck and neck, back and forth, back and forth. Right now, I'm calling it like the SEC because right now everybody knocking each other off, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And by the time we get to start playing everybody on our side, back to our division, we have a chance to actually knock everybody off week by week. So this is a very important every week for us in the Massachusetts Parish organization.
I wanted to talk to you about the IFL as a whole. You spoke to it being competitive. With the Monterey Steel, you guys finished 7-4 in the NAL with Coach Jay Anderson. Talk to me about the differences between the NAL and IFL today in terms of competitiveness.
Well, I mean, it's more, you have one man in motion in the IFL. I mean, in the NAL, and you have maybe 2 men in motion in the IFL. So it really makes it, the rules change, but they really don't change. The athletic ability, you have pretty much the same athletic ability everywhere. It's kids trying to get in from NFL camps, trying to get in from IFL to NAL to EIF, CIF. They want to play anywhere and everywhere. So, by playing in the IFL, it's a premier league. And the difference between, the IFL and the NAL is pretty much just the talent pool. I mean, you have guys just coming from NFL, just straight from college and stuff like that, coming to the IFL, which, that really doesn't matter. every kid and everybody need a chance to go anywhere and everywhere, whether if it's a small school, big school, it doesn't matter. Everybody need a chance.
Most definitely. TJ, you got any questions?
Oh, yeah, with the way the season started, obviously not ideal. What were you guys able to do to keep the players motivated and, mentally on track to help kind of start to turn this thing around now?
Well, I could just tell you, before it was actually I was 0-2. We was 0-2 when I first got here. And we kind of bounced around with success. We kind of bounced around, and we went 2-2. Okay, and then we went to Arizona. Of course, we lost 2 games back to back, and actually we stayed in Arizona for a whole week. So actually, we had a chance to bond. We had a chance to bond with each other, to get closer as a team. And not saying that we're not close as a team right now, but we had a chance to actually, as coaches, as players, and we had time to go out and spend time with each other. We had time to go out and eat with each other. We had time to go out and just do everything as just like a unit, just a team. And we do those things here as well, but it was just more of a more atmosphere, just being together as one in like one hotel and just, just getting to know each other, just having board talk every time, every minute of everything. So yes.
And I kind of wanted to, coming up on my final question for you here is that left tackle spot. Obviously, we've had a lot of moving parts, right? Navag and Jordan have been consistent, but at that left tackle, I mean, we ran through Nick Ford, Ryan Johnson, and then we went through Dante Lucas. Talk to me about how much of a role those two veteran offensive linemen have played in getting the new linemen acclimated to the indoor game.
Anytime you have veteran old linemen, that is a plus. That's always a plus by having veteran old linemen. And just by, I have to commend, just the organization and the owner as well, just by going out and getting old linemen just that fast, because we had to have a quick turnaround with old linemen. And just he does it really well, as does recruiting, and that's what I really know about Jawad. He does a really great job in recruiting and bringing players to the team. And unfortunately, we had lost 2 linemen just back to back like that, which that never happens, currently. So we have got 2 linemen right back in the same spot within the same week. So actually, that was really, really great, man. I have to commend Jawad for just going out, hustling and bustling his tail off, just trying to get linemen in here. And he does a really great job at recruiting. And once again, I have to say, I commend the Massachusetts Parish organization for just going out and just recruiting.
Definitely one of the most talented teams on paper every year, it seems like. So, honestly, I could imagine as a coach, you're probably, fairly excited to come work with the Pirates, knowing that you're going to have one of the most talented rosters in the league no matter what. Talk to us. I might have missed something, so if you already asked this, I apologize. But talk to us about the development of Kenji Bahar in your offense and how you feel he's doing to progressing towards being an elite starter in the IFL.
Okay, like I said earlier, it was more of getting him reading the defenses and getting the feel of the game because, I don't care who you are. Coming in indoor is not easy. Playing against the walls, trying to spot the balls in certain spaces, trying to put the balls in certain holes. It's not easy, coming from outdoor, coming to indoor. So that's kind of, it takes I would say it would take a rookie to actually a year to develop the whole game. But Kenji, he's kind of developing the game over within a half of a season, which is really, really great. He's a very smart, intelligent, well quarterback as well. So that what makes it really easy for him is being football IQ is really, really great, and him being adjusting and the team rallying around him, the coaches, the owners rallying around him, and actually, the veteran receivers and the veteran O line, they really have taken Kenji under their wing, and say, you know what, this is on us. We're gonna do it. You just make sure you get your job done. We're gonna get our job done, and we all gonna come together and get everything done as one. And I think we're starting to hit that turning curve to where we're starting to see, okay, guys, this is what we got to do each and every week. Like earlier, Chris was saying, how does it feel to be, in our spot right now? Well, like I said, I feel like we're in the SEC right now. We have to knock each other off, and by these next 3 to 4 games in a row, we're really going to have to win those games. By us beating Jacksonville, we actually was a tiebreaker within those games. So now we have to go out. We have to go beat Jacksonville 2 more times. We have to go beat the Freight maybe 2 more times. We have to beat the Freight 1 more time. Just eliminate them. It's those scenarios that we have to do and those mindsets that we have to take in practice to make ourselves better each and every week, to make ourselves, excuse me, at the end goal for the championship. And that's a mindset that we have to have. And I think last week we kind of set the mindset that we really have to going into this stretch of the season right here.
Makes perfect sense to me. Do you guys have any more questions for Coach Tias?
Yeah, Coach, appreciate your time this morning. My final question for you, you've been around the IFL for a while. You've seen the league through different points. Where do you see the league going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, man. I'm going to tell you the truth, Chris. Like, it's taken off from when I started back in, 2021. Like, I've been in the league since the IFL started. Let's just say that. And I've been, back when it first started, when Darlene and everyone else started, and it switched over to Todd. And actually, the IFL has grown way more over the past year and a half than I ever seen a league grow. Going from 10 teams to 16 teams, and going from 10 game to 16 game season to, we probably add more teams next season, and which I don't know. That's not here nor for me to say, but I'm pretty sure we're going to add more teams by looking at different cities, and different cities grasping the concept of the IFL, and they want to be a part of the IFL. So I'm looking at a lot more teams adding and being a part of the IFL, which that is really, really great. And from 3 to 5 years, right now we got a good stream on the internet. And right now I'm pretty much thinking that it's going to be like a good stream pretty much on a mainstream stage in the next 3 to 5 years, just like the AFL one was back in its heydays back then. Now, not to say they're not coming back up, but I think the IFL is pretty much going to take a rocket launch off too as well. And I commend Todd Tryon for busting his tail each and every year to get different teams in the league, and we're staying in the league. There's not many teams leaving the IFL, and the team that left the IFL, it was just unfortunate due to just unfortunate problems, but they coming right back, just like, Duke City and Albuquerque. They went dormant, but guess what? They coming right back next season. So, you never know. You never know what may happen.
TJ, do you have anything else for Coach Tias?
Nope, I'm good.
Coach, I'm going to leave you with one last question.
Okay.
And if you don't want to answer this one, perfectly okay. You just mentioned Duke City's coming back in Albuquerque. What are the chances we see you back with Duke City at some point?
Oh, you going to do me like this right now?
I apologize, Coach. I had to ask.
You know what? I'm a Massachusetts Pirate right now, and I would love to be a Massachusetts Pirate because it is actually a great premier atmosphere, a great organization. I love being here in Massachusetts. I love the seafood, of course. Oh, my God, the seafood. The city is nice, up here in the East Coast. The weather, I don't know. The weather might change. Weather might change my mind a little bit, because it snows a whole lot and you shoveling in and out the driveways. And in Albuquerque, it's crazy weather. You got bipolar weather. You might get 5 seasons in one day. But being a part of the IFL and, just knowing the owners and everything, I love the Massachusetts Pirates. These are more like family-oriented people. These are like a family. Of course, it's like more of a family up here. So, this is really would be a great chance for me to come back, whatever holds, whatever happens, I would love to come back and be in the Massachusetts Pirates offensive coordinator. I really would.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sorry to put you on the spot like that. Had to ask, of course, but at the same time, there's not many better places to coach when it comes to the IFL than Massachusetts. I mean, like we talked about before, you're going to have one of the most talented rosters every season. So that has to be an exciting proposition as a coach.
Yes, it really is. Like, I may say, it'll be more like, okay, coach, we need a wide receiver. We need an O lineman. We need another quarterback. Next thing you know, you'll see Jawad shake his head, just yeah. And he never say that. He just say yeah, and walks out. And the next thing you know, you may see 2 more O linemen, 3 more wide receivers, 2 more quarterbacks, and all of them got to work out. So and they come from NFL, and I was like, wow, where do you get this talent from? Where is your database? So I mean, yeah, and kids, they want to come play for the Massachusetts Pirates because they hear about the Massachusetts Pirates being a premier organization. So that's what makes the easy transition, and I love it.
I believe it. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Coach. We really appreciate it. Congrats on the recent win, and hopefully that's the beginning of a string of wins for you this upcoming, stretch, and you guys can get back on the playoff race. Anything else you got for him, Krish, or anything?
No, Coach, I appreciate your time. I'm really excited to see where this offense goes, and I feel like we turned the corner, and the whole IFL should be scared. So let's go.
Yeah, they better start watching out, Chris. Like, for real. Like, we've turned the corner right now, and we're not looking back. We're going forward from here on out.
Absolutely. Thank you once again so much for your time this morning. I would love to have you back later on in the season, closer to the championship, when hopefully you guys are in the thick of things.
Thank you for having me. God bless you guys. Y'all
Absolutely.
be safe.
Have a great rest of your day, sir.
Coming on.
You too.
Once again, that was Martino Tias, the offensive coordinator of the Massachusetts Pirates. Shout out to Krish on arranging that one. We still have a really awesome guest lined up for you here shortly. Should be showing up any minute. And we also have Coach Trey in the blue or the green room, waiting to see if we could get him involved. We were having some audio issues with him earlier, but real quick, we're going to go hit a quick commercial, and then we'll jump into some other topics. Shout out to our sponsor, S Time for Fitness, an athlete-run company. If you are aware of Kevin S Time, I'm sure you've seen his clothing before. He's kind of all over with that stuff. So let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit, and we have a little bit of time. You guys want to transition to some TAL for a little bit, or do you want to just jump right into AF1 and we can talk about that until our next guest shows up?
We could do AF1 and then talk about TAL kind of down the line. Once my guest from the St. Joe's Goats joins us.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Very nice. Well, in that case, we'll go ahead and jump into the AF1 topics. I mean, there's quite a bit going on this week. Once again, we have that question of the day, which is, should the AF1 bring back the 3 and 4 point conversions we saw in the AFL last year? And then do you have any other ideas to increase scoring as things go on? If you were paying attention on Twitter earlier this week, Stephen Titus posed the question. We just kind of piggybacked off that, and we actually have some poll results. But I'm going to pose that question to you guys while I pull up the results of that poll, and then we can kind of go from there. So let's go to TJ first on this one.
Yeah, on the poll, I voted for add everything, add every possibility to score. Not the biggest fan of the 4 point conversion, but adding say the three, like for instance, yesterday in the UFL, the game was still close and competitive because of that 3-point option. So, any time to keep teams in the games longer, especially since in arena football, the scores do kind of spread a little bit. It makes it easier for the team that's down to climb back into it, but it also forces the team who's in the lead, no matter how much you're in the lead, you got to keep the foot on the pedal. So I think any way to get more scoring, rouge points, everything else, I think anything to just spice up the game is good because eye appeal is going to get people viewing on TV and get more local fans in the seats.
Sorry about that. Definitely love that point. I mean, scoring is what it's all about when it comes to the fan. The exciting plays are the ones that typically produce points. So, I'm a big fan of adding in, anything that's going to produce points as well. But Krish, what is your opinion on this one?
I mean, I'll use an example, right? If you're Coach Thomas and SWK, your beloved Dylan Burkhart is 31 for 40 on extra points. If you have that level of inconsistency, why not go for 2 with a quarterback like Jalen Moore? Why not go for 3, right? It spices it up a little bit, and then it makes elite quarterbacks even more valuable than they already are. It makes receivers, you have to go out and get good receivers. You have to go out and get good linemen. It makes it even more imperative. And so I think it's a good idea. I want the 3 and 4 point. I didn't like it at first, but now it's kind of grown on me because going back and watching some of the games from last year, yeah, you should bring it back for sure.
I definitely like it. I'm still trying to find the results of that poll. I apologize. It was further back than I thought it was. Krish, real quick before we move on, what do you think about the rouge? Should the rouge come back? As we have here mentioned in the comments, bring back the rouge, and any ball that doesn't hit the net on a onside kickoff is 1 point for the receiving team. That I like that back half there, and I believe if correct me if I'm wrong, Trey, you called it the wild card when you brought that up in the group chat that we're all in. Loved that name, but Krish, what would you think about those two propositions?
Yeah, that was honestly, so that's a great idea. Obviously, Trey always has good ideas. He studies this game, really well. So obviously, that's something they did in the NAL, right? In the beginning in 2018, 19, 21, 22, and I think they brought it for 23. They took it away for 24 when they switched to indoor rules. But I think that's, again, it makes you having to have a good kicker. How many of these teams do we see not have a real kicker? Right, Oregon, they have a running back kicking. I mean, Washington, I don't call him a real kicker. Who else? Corpus, they don't have. You have to make these coaches do their full job, and that's filling every position on the roster. So I think it's a good rule, and it makes the game more exciting too.
I am a huge proponent of making kickers more important to the game, and honestly, I think anything you can do to make the kicking game more exciting is a good thing. You don't want fans getting up off the seat at that point to go get popcorn or whatever they might be getting. You want them in their seat watching that game and glued to it because it's such a good game. So, TJ, I know you're a huge special teams proponent as well. What are your thoughts on adding the rouge and then also the quote unquote wild card?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of bringing the rouge back. The wild card idea, that's an interesting idea, and like Chris said, before, you would have to bring in definitely more skilled kickers for that. Because I mean, how many times in a game do we see him, kick out of bounds and it's back to the 20? Well, now all those times they did that, you'd be hurting your team even more, not just setting your defense up basically at midfield to start off the drive defending, but you'd also be giving up points now to that team as well. So it would definitely add a lot of, I'll say, quote unquote parity loosely to it. But I'm definitely I'm definitely a fan of it just because, again, it adds to just the different ideas and concepts. And, then you'll also see how dangerous certain returners are because some teams, just like in the CFL, may be willing to give up that point just to end the play instead of, kick it to him and have him return it for a touchdown. So it'd be interesting to see the different kind of chess matches that could go on as well.
Completely agree. I mean, you might have a different strategy on those things depending on who you're facing. If you have a really good kick returner back there, you might just go ahead and give them that point every single time. It just depends, So it definitely creates an interesting dynamic. Off the Wall says the nets are one of the major appeals of the arena game nowadays. Force teams to use them. I like that thought process. To talk about our results on our poll. On the Facebook poll, I gave several options. Either yes to the 3-point conversion, yes to both 3 and 4 points, yes to the rouge, or yes to all 3 options. Essentially, the bulk of the people that voted, 38% to be exact, all voted for all 3 options. 21% want to see the rouge come back. 6% just wanted the 3 and 4-point conversions, and then 8% 3-point conversions. 27%, this was kind of surprising to me, said no to all of them. So I'm curious on that and why that came about for those guys. And then on our Twitter poll, similar results, 52.9% versus 47.1% say yes, more points. 47.1% say no, too gimmicky to have 3 and 4-point options. So interesting to see those poll results. I mean, I actually expected a better or bigger split on Facebook with people who did not want the points added, but one of those things seems to be a pretty popular opinion that they want more points. A couple more comments real quick. You told me last night IFL isn't AF1, so please explain the difference. Well, very clearly, the major difference between the AF1 and the IFL is a 5-man box. That jack linebacker is a lot more limited in the AF1, which means that you're not going to see as much running. It's a much more pass-happy league, and that's the main difference between those two leagues. Then also, as we just discussed, the rebound nets. So that's another thing as well. They're honestly, if you watch the games, they're 2 completely different styles of offensive philosophy. In the IFL, your quarterback is going to run the ball a lot. That's why you have guys like TJ Edwards, Drew Powell, Dalton Sneed, all these different mobile guys that can kind of run the ball just as much as they can throw the ball. The threat to throw is important in the IFL, but the ability to be a dual threat passer is more important in the IFL than it is in the AF1, where they can kind of sit back in the pocket and dice the ball up. Another big change between these two leagues, IFL is a lot of shotgun offense. In the AF1, typically you see guys under center, and they're looking for, again, more pocket passers to dice up the defense through the passing game, not through the run game. So that is something that is a major difference. There's a lot more we could go into. Anything I missed, guys? Go ahead, TJ.
The walls. If the ball bounces off the walls in arena, it's still alive. In IFL, it's considered dead.
There you go.
Another passing specifically. Yeah.
Another big difference. So there's quite a bit of rule differences between the two leagues that you may not necessarily recognize until you watch the two gameplays right up next to each other. But Off the Wall also says also would create more deuce opportunities by default. 100%. If you have to hit the net and you're forcing them to hit the net, chances are teams are going to go for those 2 points a lot more often. But without further ado, we're going to invite on our guest, Stephen Titus, the owner of the Billings Outlaws. Stephen, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to be able to speak with you. And you came on in perfect timing. We're talking points. We heard you wanted more of them.
Well, I don't want more of them necessarily. I just want to make the game more exciting. I was reading some of the comments, and even though my team's struggling, we still have the second highest scoring team in the league this year. So this isn't some kind of way to try to put the Billings Outlaws in a better position. It's just trying to make the game more exciting. I think every league has to look at that objectively, is what do we do to take the league from, point A to point B. So I think that's just something that I think every league has to do every season, is what do we do to continue evolving the game?
Absolutely. And one of the suggestions that you brought up on Twitter was the 3 and 4 point conversions that were in the CIF that kind of carried over to the AFL. What do you like so much about the 3 and 4 point conversions that kind of stood out to you as an option?
Well, I don't necessarily like them. It just created more excitement. You didn't see teams necessarily out if you're down by 3 possessions late in the game. It's just something to have a conversation about. There's nothing necessarily that I like or am in favor of necessarily. It's just, how do people feel about those options? It's just trying to get a springboard for ideas, not necessarily that I'm an advocate for them. It's just, just trying to get feedback on how people felt about it.
Definitely. Well, we got some feedback for you. It sounds like
Exactly.
a lot more people want more points. So
Yeah.
not entirely surprising, to be honest, but awesome to see how it kind of all shook out. TJ, do you have any questions? You're our resident Billings Outlaws fan.
It's awesome talking to you, Mr. Titus.
Hey, TJ. Good morning.
Morning. What has been probably the most just surprising part of this season with the team struggling?
I'm not used to it. Coach Walker's been my head coach for 4 years, and we've never seen anything like this. Our offense is chugging along. I mean, like I was just telling Sam, we have the second highest scoring offense in the league in average points per game. So the offense isn't the problem. It's Coach Walker's defense that's struggling this year. I've never seen his secondary get eaten up alive like they are. And I know he's making some pretty drastic changes pretty quick to make sure that problem stops. But we had some problems on offense at the beginning of the year. Then we made kind of a complete sweeping change in offense, when we added Darius and Malik and some other guys. And so the offense has really started to meld together. And then kind of all of a sudden the defense, the bottom falls out from the defense. And so that seems to be our biggest struggle right now, is the defense. I know Coach Walker had some transactions this week on defense. I think we'll have a great test this weekend against Oregon. And then, I think we're going to see a great game come Nashville next week, which really kind of dictates our future moving forward.
Absolutely. What would you say to somebody that asked you if Coach Walker is in any sort of danger due to the fact that it's the defense that needs some tune-ups? Is he safe heading into 2026, or is that going to be something you consider?
Coach Walker's not going anywhere. Coach Walker's my guy. We'll get things fixed. He looks at things very objectively. Him and I talk every day. I don't think Coach Walker, well, I can tell you, I know Coach Walker isn't going anywhere. He'll be my coach in 2026.
I kind of had a feeling that was going to be your answer. Obviously from dealing with you over the past couple years that I've known you, it seems like you have a very high level of trust in Coach Walker. So I kind of assumed that he wasn't going anywhere, but there had kind of been some speculation out there, which
I'll put that speculation aside real quick. Coach Walker's going to be my coach 100% in 2026.
Love that. Love to hear that. So glad to hear that Billings can kind of expect some continuity as far as that goes. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you. You made some comments a couple weeks ago about the support you're getting in Billings. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah. So I think we have to look at this from 2 points of view, which I think are important. One is the league point of view. And when we're growing the league, we're doing this very calculated. We have to look at sustainability of franchises. We look at arena deals. We look at corporate partnerships. We look at fan turnout. We look at workers' comp rates, and we look at the ownership. And Montana in general is a very difficult place to do business. And what I mean by that is our workers' compensation rates are out of all of indoor and arena football, probably the second or third highest in the country. It's, triple to quadruple what they're paying in Washington. It's triple to quadruple what they're paying in Kansas. It's a little less than what they're paying in Albany. It's very similar to what they're paying in California. The problem is that the cities that have the big work comp rates have big corporate partnerships. They're big cities. They can support and sustain with a high workers' compensation policy. Montana can't. The Billings can't. We had an unexpected increase in our rate this year of about $80,000 to $100,000, which we didn't expect, which makes it difficult to make it, and I'm not even saying profitable, to make it sustainable in Montana. And, we were looking for, city or local or state officials to help us with an offset on that, because we are providing the community really something, professional football, that isn't being provided for. And no city, no state, no local official is called. But I think you see this on a professional or on a national level as well. I mean, a good example is where's the next Arrowhead Stadium going to be? Is it going to be in Missouri? Is it going to be in Kansas? You saw this happen. Al Davis did this with the Raiders. Where does it make more sense for him to be? Is it LA? Is it Oakland? Or ultimately, was it Vegas? It's a business at the end of the day, and I have to make a decision which is in the best interest of the business. So at this point, I haven't made any decisions, but I have to, once the season's done, look at things objectively. We try to, I emailed I tried to have a conversation with the director of our arena at the beginning of the season to do a multi-year deal. And at that time, they weren't interested in doing a multi-year deal. And so because of that really left a very poor taste in my mouth.
Completely understand that. I mean, solidifying an arena over the next couple of years would take one thing off your plate each season. So I can imagine, that could be a huge boon for the team long term. TJ, any more questions you have for Titus?
Comparing, last season to this season, I mean, obviously this year on an awesome, legitimate streaming platform that's produced really great products. You have a TV deal with Vice Sports, and you're also sponsored with, Hulk Hogan and Real American Beer on the surface, but just structurally and, through the process of the season, how much better has the season been than last season?
Without a doubt, the season's much more, it's just smoother. Things are running like they're supposed to do. The focus has been on football, the action going on the field, not the drama at the front office. And I think that goes to show, you have Commissioner Fisher's leadership, you have the management committee of the AF1's leadership. You have a lot of people there that have been doing the right things to really make sure that we're building a sustainable future for the league. And that's what I think is the most important thing, is a sustainable future. We're looking at, like I said, if we could add 20 teams next season, but they were sustainable teams, they had good arena deals, they had good ownership, they had good coaching staff, things like that, we would add 20 teams. But if we only add 2 teams next year, but they're sustainable teams, they're going to be around for the long haul, then we'll add 2 sustainable teams. And so I know that conversations are going on right now about that sustainability moving forward. But I think that shows, I mean, and I don't want to dog any other league, but this is our first season around, and we have the national TV deal, we have the Evergreen Sports deal. No one else has that. And so that just shows that, with Commissioner Fisher, with the management committee and things like that in the AF1, we're really trying to build something that's going to last. We're not going to put up paywalls. And I love the IFL. I love the game, but I'm never going to put my team behind a paywall. That makes zero sense. All we're trying to do is get more eyes on our product, whether it be on streaming, it's more eyes on our players to get recruited. It's more eyes on our corporate partnerships to get more bang for their buck. I would never put our product behind a paywall. And maybe there's a method to the madness, and I really hope there is. I disagree. I've said that since the beginning. I disagree with the paywall. You'll never see AF1 behind a paywall. And so we're really trying to, I mean, I've seen our ratings. I mean, we are the most watched indoor or arena football game in the country. You know, we're getting good views on our Vice Network games. We're getting good counts on our Evergreen games. We're doing what we need to do to bring this league to the next level, to where all of our games are on national TV, till we have that national product, till we have, this parity in the league like we do. So, I mean, I can't believe that, we're 3 weeks away from the end of the season. Most teams have 2 or 3 games left, and we still don't know who's going to make the playoffs. We're not going to know till the end of the last game who's going to make the playoffs. And this is just great parity for this league. I mean, you see Albany undefeated, but yet you see them vulnerable with Salina almost. It's going to be a great playoff season. And to all my fans and all my friends in Albany, don't take this thing for granted. I mean, and I know that they're not. You can go smooth selling into things, and then all of a sudden it's one bad game, one bad half, and you find yourself in a position where, you might get upset or things like that. Hopefully it's Billings doing that upset in the first round of the playoffs if we go to Albany. That's what my goal is. That would be great to get back out there. But at the end of the day, we're going to have a great playoff season. We've had a great season so far. And what we're doing, though, is we're looking objectively going into next season. What can we do to make the game more exciting? And I think every sport has to do that every off season if they want to continue to grow, is what do we do to get better? And right now, if you watch our product, it's probably the same product that it was 40 years ago. The camera angles are the same. The score bar is the same. The scorings, besides the deuce, is basically the same. What do we do to bring it to the next level? Is it new camera angles? Is it new, pylon cameras? Is it drone footage? Is it someone with doing camera angles on the field? What does it take, and what can our production company do to really bring things to the next level? And that's a series of conversations we have to have in the off season.
I completely agree. And I think, honestly, it would be personal opinion. I think it'd be awesome to see drone footage. I've seen it done a couple times indoors, and it always looks just completely different because you're down there on the field, and it's an awesome aspect of things. But
awesome.
We have a question here from somebody who I happen to know is a Billings fan, and he's asking a lot more point blank. Are the Billings Outlaws leaving Billings in 2026?
I don't have an answer to that question quite yet. There's some other cities that do want the Outlaws, that are willing to treat the Outlaws. I mean, there's other cities, other local governments that are more wanting to have the Billings Outlaws than Billings is. And so, when I started floating things out there, I was expecting a county commissioner or a city council member to call. My phone hasn't rang. And so at this point, I can't make it's just like it was 2 weeks ago. It's 50-50. I haven't made any decisions yet. But as soon as we make a decision, we'll make sure to let everyone know. But as of right now, my mind hasn't changed one way or another. It's just, something's got to give when looking at the finances of that city. And I'm not sure that's where it is, where the team needs to be to make financial sense. If the city or the county were to come in and say, Steve, we'd love to have you here, let's figure out a way to make it work, I'd have that conversation tomorrow. But my phone hasn't rang. That's
too bad. Obviously, either somebody's oversighting things there in the government, or they just kind of don't realize the worth to the value of the community. But we have one more question here. Can you expand more on sustainability? What specifically makes a team sustainable on an individual basis?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you have to look at a number of factors. The first one is, what does the ownership group look like? Are they financially liquid? Are they sustainable? Do they have any experience in sports? Things like that. What kind of coaching staff do they plan to hire? I mean, is it, someone who has no experience in the arena, indoor, or even outdoor game? Is it someone who just, wants to be a kind of like a fanboy coach, or is it someone who does have the experience? So what does our coaching staff look like? What does our front office staff look like? What does our proposed front office staff have? One thing about the arena and indoor game is it's a very specialized marketing tool. And so do you have the right people that can market it, sell corporate partnerships, things like that? Work comp, what kind of workers' comp does that state have? Is it a private company that provides it? Is it competitive? Or is it a state fund where it's one person or one entity and you have to go with their rate? Then what does their rate look like? What kind of arena is it? Is it an expensive arena? Is it an arena that gives you a part of concessions? You get so much money per head when you come in. Do you get what does the rent look like? If you take, for example, one of the best arena deals in all of indoor and arena football is Dodge City. They do really well. If they get 1,500 or 2,000 people in, they get great settlements. They want more home games versus something like Orlando, where at the Kia Center, if you get 5,000 or 6,000 people there, you're still writing the Kia Center a $50,000 check. And so I think we have to look at one of the things that is sustainability is what does their arena situation look like, and what kind of deals would they make? What kind of lease are they looking into, and things like that. So I think it's a number of factors that go into the equation when looking whether a team is sustainable or not. I hope that answers the question. But it's not just, can they come in and pay a franchise fee and they have a field from XYZ. I think it's looking at whether they're the whole package or not, and whether they are going to stick around for the long term.
No, I love to hear that. Honestly, it sounds like there's been a lot of consideration from ownership on how to fix the situation going forward. And, obviously this year was nothing anybody wanted to see. I mean, with all the issues with Wilkes-Barre and Arizona and all this stuff, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like for you guys to kind of adjust on the fly with stuff like that happening.
No, I agree with what you said.
Okay, sounded like you wanted to elaborate on that a little bit, but completely understand. So heading forward,
there will be changes in the offseason to make sure that we don't have issues for any team in any of our franchises. Let's just put it that way. I'll keep it short and sweet like that.
No, I like I said, I love to hear that. I mean, we've talked about it a lot here. We think that the AF1 has a great foundation to be one of the best leagues that we've seen in a long time, and we're hoping that to get there, things do become a little bit more stable. Even if it means less new teams, year over year than possible, if that makes sense.
Agreed completely. It's kind of this, what I call calculated sustainability. We have to be sustainable. We have to add franchises correctly, and we have to do it in an orderly fashion, whether it's adding 2 or whether it's adding 20. If it's the right teams in the right markets and in the right situations, then we'll add 20 next year. But if it's not, then we'll add 2.
Makes perfect sense. TJ, any other questions for Steven?
No questions. I just want to say once again, thanks for coming on. And I love the AF1. It's night and day difference from last year. And even at the beginning of the season with Oregon, promising things would be better every single home game, and every single home game I've looked, and the setup's gotten better and everything else. So not only running smoother, but also making expectations and promises and keeping them. So that's an awesome look. And good luck on the rest of the season. Obviously, I'll be watching. I'm a huge Outlaws fan. So
thanks, TJ. I appreciate that. Yeah, go Outlaws. One thing I do want to add is that I made this bet with the Albany ownership that I would wrap my car in a wrap. A little birdie has landed on my shoulder and said that wrap may be premiering at the Nashville game. And so it's hideous. I mean, I've seen it. It looks terrible, but it's a bet's a bet. And so I know a lot of people have been asking, but that will be making a cameo appearance at the Nashville game here Monday, a week from Monday.
All right. Looking forward to seeing that for sure. I totally forgot to ask about the bets, so that's awesome. Yep. I really appreciate your time today. I don't really have any other questions off the top of my head. I mean, I could ask, if you had talked to any teams for 2026 yet, but I kind of already know that this conversation's been had. I don't have anybody, necessarily telling me team names quite yet, but I'm sure they'll start kind of coming out here shortly.
Yes, we have, and we can't talk about it yet. But yes, you're right. We have been talking about expansion franchises for next year.
Absolutely. Well, really appreciate your time. Best of luck this weekend and moving forward. Hopefully we see you guys in the playoffs.
That's me too. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day, Steven.
Hey, you too. Talk to you later.
Bye. Sounds great. All right. Once again, that was Steven Titus, owner of the Billings Outlaws. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then TJ, you probably got to get out of here at this point, right?
I have about another 5 or 10 minutes.
Awesome. So we're gonna run a quick commercial. We'll come back and we'll talk some TAL with Coach Brandon Henderson. Obviously, as you all know at home, there was some pretty big news that came out of the TAL this week, and some news that possibly makes the league a little bit more sustainable going forward. So we will talk to Coach B about that because he's very close to the situation. And also, we will talk about some other things with the NAL to close things out. We will give you our locks of the week as well.
I'm just being myself, cool as can be. When I'm being myself, you wish you were me. It's so easy. Get out your own way. It's just so easy.
All right. Shout out to Upside, our sponsor. Also, shout out to Honey Stinger, another sponsor we have. I don't have a commercial set up for it. I will get one going. They are TJ's sponsor specifically. So if you've checked out any of his content on TikTok, definitely want to give them a shout out because they've been kind of helping him make it happen. Let's put it that way. So moving on to the TAL, as everybody has been watching this week, Garage Beer, a brand that is at least partially owned by the Kelsey brothers, Travis Kelsey and Jason Kelsey, announced that they were purchasing into a team, a professional team. I believe it was like 4 days ago, and they announced 2 days ago that it was the St. Joe Goats that they were buying into. Obviously, this makes a lot of sense. Maybe you've heard Travis Kelsey plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. So why not buy a team in your backyard? So very interested to talk to Coach B about this in particular, and he is here on the line with us. Coach B, do you have any thoughts on this? And how big of a surprise was it to you, or was this something that you knew was coming?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
How you doing this morning? Thank you for having me on again.
Hey, you are welcome on anytime you want to come on, sir.
No, man, it was something been in the works for a while now. We thought they were playing about it. We got to give thanks to Titus Bond, our old lead owner. He had this in works for a while, so it's something really big. Exciting to the town. Wish we were still in Kansas City because it'd be even more exciting. But St. Joe, it's a part of Kansas City, 30 minutes away. We still got the fan base. We still got the people. I think it was something that we needed. Everybody's talking in these other leagues, talking about bringing professional ownership to their leagues, and we just kept quiet and we did. Garage Beer and the Kelsey brothers are our majority owner here in St. Joe. Minority owners is Christian Okoye, Hall of Fame running back from the Chiefs, Gates Barbecue, and 810 Sports Show, Kelvin St. John. It's our ownership group. So we think we built a solid foundation, something to build on, maybe even do something new. The TAL is always trying to shake it up. And you see with our streaming last year, we were probably the second biggest streaming indoor arena platform last year. It's definitely something we try to do. We look at the obstacles and all the numbers, and we try to build on that because that's the way you build a sustainable league.
No, I love that. That's a great point. And man, you hear that, to hear that listed out for your ownership group. I mean, that is that sounds like a pretty promising group. Can you kind of elaborate on how hands-on some of those owners are? Like, I mean, how often do the players actually get to speak with a guy like Christian Okoye?
He's around all the time. Like we do at all our meet and greets, all our events, he's there. He stopped through practice. We do the Christian Okoye football camp. So we get to see him a lot. He lives in Kansas City. He has a home in California as well. Kelsey lives in Kansas City. Gates, Mr. William Gates, George Gates, he lives here in Kansas City. Our ownership is all Kansas City based.
That's awesome. That's awesome. even more so, because of the ties to Kansas City. I mean, that's awesome. You couldn't ask for a better ownership group. Krish, TJ, do you guys have any questions?
The crazy thing is, this was something that we tried to do when I was with the Iowa Rampage. So I think Chris already knew this. The deal with the Rampage with the AFL, the old AFL, we had the rights to the Iowa market and the Kansas City market. So we were going to move a team or move the team to Kansas City or put a team in Kansas City the following year. And we were trying to get Mahomes and Kelsey to be part of the ownership group and buy Trevor and them out.
Wow, interesting. I mean, that would have been a powerhouse for sure. Chris, TJ, any questions?
Yeah, Coach. Obviously, I know we spoke about this off air a little bit. St. Joe in relation to Kansas City, it's a suburb. Do you see the community from Kansas City really coming out and supporting the team, or do you think eventually the team will move back to Kansas City?
That's a good question. It's not a suburb, Chris. St. Joe is a small city town slash town, just 30 to 40 minutes north of Kansas City. So, that's the place where the Chiefs host training camp. It's a college town. Missouri Western University is up there. It's a big town. So we got enough people just in St. Joe to come out and fill the arena. And if you add the Kansas City people in, it's a no brainer. Like we got a packed house, but it's not a far commute. 30 to 40 minutes. Anywhere you go in Kansas City, because we're so big, you can get around anywhere in Kansas City in 25, 30 minutes if you take 435 or 70 highway. So it's just a commute right up 29 highway. Takes about 30 minutes. You wouldn't even know it. You'd think you're going down from downtown to from Blue Springs or Grandview, Missouri suburbs.
Definitely can attest to that. I mean, I not to toot my own horn, but I drove an hour plus to go to a Spartans game. 30 minutes, really kind of drop in the bucket, grand scheme of things. Um, you know, it's one of those things. You're gonna have to commute a little bit, most likely. TJ, any questions for Coach B?
For this upcoming season, any fans who may be on the fence about coming to the game or just watching it on, one of your platforms that the games are being streamed on, what is the likelihood of getting to at least see, if not maybe even meet and greet a little with the Kelsey brothers?
It will happen. It will happen.
Is
So that's one thing about all our ownership group. You even seen, I don't know if y'all noticed, you've seen Christian Okoye walking around some of our games last year. So they all interact. Our ownership group. George Gates, he's one of the biggest barbecue chains in the United States with Gates Barbecue. He has a suite on the sideline every game. Right there, we talk. If you look at some of our past games, me, Dorsey, all of us are interacting with the whole organization right there during games. So they're very supportive. Kelvin St. John, an 810 Sports Radio show, he's always around. We're always doing events. So it might be a couple events in Kansas City because like our ownership group is based out of Kansas City. We do a lot of appearances there, a lot of appearances in St. Joe. So it's gonna be a mixture of both cities. So we call it Missouri, the Missouri goats right now.
Gotcha. Love it. Love it. Man, I'm personally out of questions. Chris, do you have anything?
The same thing Stephen Titus talked about. One thing with the move was Kansas City. We only have actually 3 to 4 arenas here. The arena we had an issue with our floor. It crumbled up from getting water leakage in there, so we couldn't finish out in municipal. So you see, we put the twist to it and played outside, which a lot of people ain't never did it except old AFL with Utah Blaze. And honestly, I think we got more people to come to the outside game than we did in the municipal auditorium, and that's kind of crazy because we packed it out there. But attest to what Stephen Titus was saying, just getting in certain arenas here, the lease rent will be extremely way too high. So St. Joe was the best viable option as far as arena wise.
No, it makes perfect sense. What's the capacity in the St. Joe Arena?
10K.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's still a pretty good size arena. I mean, and given
We
that
we
it's a
play
smaller
state
town,
basketball tournament in that arena. So Missouri State basketball tournament is held down there. So it's a pretty big arena. Like it's about the same size as municipal. You just got to pack it out.
absolutely. No, I actually like the move. I mean, chances are, I would imagine the arena rent's a little bit cheaper given that you're out of Kansas City.
It's 10 times cheaper than what we had last year.
I believe it. I mean, that's a good way to make a team sustainable long term. So, love to hear that move. Talk to us a little bit about some of the other innovations that the TAL has kind of brought in 2025. I know they've kind of been touting the quote unquote upgrades the league has made.
You see the new rules. Chris been asking me about the rules all week. Like, oh, they do. Yes, the QB has a run alley. Every player is eligible to catch the ball except the center right now. We just make the game a little bit more fun. I think I call it you put arena, indoor, and flag football all in one, and you get the TAL.
That's honestly the perfect way to explain that because, yeah, I mean, otherwise, how else do you explain that? TJ, you got to get going, man. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate you joining us every Saturday, and look forward to speaking with you next week, buddy. Any final
Appreciate
thoughts
you,
before you get
TJ.
out of here?
Just it's going to be a fun day of both indoor and outdoor football. So football fans, we got a lot of plans today, and it was great talking with all you guys. Coach B, great to see you again, and hopefully I see you guys all next week.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you,
Appreciate
buddy.
you. All right. Any other final TAL questions, Krish?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about the game last night.
Ooh wee!
Coach, I know you called me at halftime, and we were both surprised. I mean, I was surprised. You weren't surprised, but Coach Tony and Duluth were really getting exposed, right? And it was 32-12 at halftime. What were your thoughts, and what were your thoughts about the whole game as a whole?
I actually was surprised, Chris, because I didn't expect it. I knew Victor Mann as a coach would bring his swag and his style to Iowa Woo, and I knew that they would be able to compete, but I didn't think they would jump out there that quick like that and execute. But then it comes down to that's why Tony and them a championship team. You go in the locker room, you reevaluate, you make adjustments, and they did that as a coaching staff. And I don't think Iowa really made adjustments until late in the fourth quarter, but you already let the lead sleep away, and you can't get back. In arena football, it's a game of inches. And Chris, we was talking about that, like, yeah. Now, if it would have been 32-6 and Iowa came out and scored, I would have been like, oh, the game over with. But it was 32-14. Duluth had the momentum going into halftime. Came out of halftime, scored twice. Boom, we got a ball game. Arena football, and in less than 2 minutes, you bring back a 28-point deficit. Like, it's unheard of. That's what makes this game different. That's what makes indoor arena different from outdoor. I love outdoor, but you don't get that same bang for your buck that you do indoor.
Completely agree. Completely agree on that. If you were a part of the Iowa Woo and you were a coach or put general manager or whatever, what would you do to fix the situation? Obviously, it seems like they've got a couple things that need to be repaired going forward. What would you do?
Man, I would change that quarterback situation. That was horrendous last night. Even with their sorry about that. Even with their lead, it was just bad, poor decision and QB making all game. Yeah, you gotta in the center. Those snaps were not where it's at. I know Rob Paldepi, and he prides himself on being a lineman, so you got to do a job. And you say you're a veteran, that didn't show a veteran display last night. You got to step up, buddy. You gotta that center QB. That's where they lost the game at. And honestly, I saw Trey Harlan out there at nose guard. Once he was gas, he was gas. It wasn't no attacking no more. They got to get bodies in there. They got to get a little bit smaller and get some speed on that defensive line.
Completely agree. I mean, honestly, with the way that the TAL works, I don't know that carrying a true nose tackle is the way to go personally, but I mean, I would personally have just, maybe two defensive ends, and just rotate them.
Rush ends.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do want to bring up one thing, and I can admit when I'm wrong. I think I was a little wrong about Hassan Brockman going into the season. I thought his role would be reduced as a receiver. I look at the receiving room they have with Jamal Couch, Dan Williams, and we'll talk about him soon. But I think Hassan Brockman coming in and replacing Jamonte Johnson with his 32-6 and watching, and I love Jamonte. I think he's a good quarterback. But I think he's very unpolished, and I think he needs to work on some mechanical things. And I think the indoor arena game might be a better fit for him than the TAL, and that's fine. Hassan Brockman is an athlete, right? What he's able to do back there with the football, move around, he adds a whole different dimension to the game. And I think his ability to come in and take over and lead the team, you saw the team rallying around him, and that's why they made that comeback because of him. He scored, I think, 7 touchdowns. And so you look at his stats through 4 games, he's scored 19 touchdowns. Like, he's been dominant. And so I think I'm interested to see him moving forward. Now that teams know Duluth is committed to Hassan Brockman at quarterback, how does that change the approach? And I think Coach B can kind of touch on that a little bit, but it's an interesting thing to watch going forward, for sure. But Iowa Woo, I think, they obviously, like what you guys said about them being tired, gassed. I mean, that DB room is horrible. They need to go and get some more DBs. I know Coach Victor Mann, he's very dedicated to the North Texas Bull guys. But sometimes, man, this is, no disrespect to North Texas. This is a pro league now. You know what I mean? Like, when you're facing guys like Dan Williams, who played in the NFL for 4 years, you're facing guys like Jamal Couch at Mississippi State, Boo Smith, all these guys that you need dudes who can play at a high level. And so I encourage them to really go out and go and get some good DBs to help close the gap. I think quarterback, Vern Sharp is not the future. I think Carlos is. I think Carlos played a great game. I think he came in, he was a little rusty. You realize he had to play the arena. He's coming off a full season in Spain. He came in, and I think he really did a good job. And so they need to move forward with Carlos at quarterback and figure out what Ryan Sharp's role is going forward. So it's a lot of things to look at for the Woo, for sure.
It's too bad that we couldn't have the Coach Trey on. That's would have made for a very interesting segment for sure. But I like what you said about Hassan Brockman. I don't recall you saying his role would be reduced, so good on you for calling that out.
As a receiver, because I thought, I'm like, how are they going to fit him in? They you know what I mean? You can only have 3 to 2 receivers on the field. Jamal Couch and Dan Williams are locked me on the field every time. And then you have Sarai Flowers coming over from the NAL. So I didn't really think he would have a role. And then the whole pitchback situation, I was unclear on the rule because I heard from a player, a player source, that the rule was banned. And then I heard from a coach that they took away the pitchback. And then Coach B clarified that the pitchback is actually still legal. So there was a lot of just confusion on that end.
Completely understand, and yeah, I also had confusion on that. I mean, I had not heard the same things you had heard, but I'm glad that we have some clarification on that now with the rules coming out. I'm going to run through some comments real quick. Some of these are a little bit old. I'm going to the Strike Force game tonight. My uncle is the head coach, Taylor Genuzer. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Yeah, awesome. Glad to hear it. Thank you for tuning in, C-Dog. Really appreciate your support on this show. If you guys are tuning in right now, do us a favor. Wherever you're watching, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, does not matter. Hit that little thumbs up for us. That helps us grow our reach on every platform and helps us continue this show. Obviously, at the end of the day, this all costs us time and effort to prepare subjects, guests, all that fun stuff. So every little bit helps. Really appreciate any and all help on that like button for us. Trey Edwards says, what about joining another league? What are the protocols or requirements for joining and leaving a league? Typically, Trey, there are league affiliation agreements in place. Some leagues have them, or most leagues have them, some don't. This kind of prevents a bunch of teams jumping around. We saw kind of a perfect storm the past couple seasons where a bunch of teams had hit the end of their league affiliation agreement and allowed them to make a move, and that's why we saw the big realignment with the AF1, the CIF breaking up, the NAL moving around, and kind of the whole shakeup that we did the past couple of years. I don't want to speak for Steven Titus. I would be surprised after his comments if they left the AF1. So take that for what it is. Again, I do not have inside information, but it sounds like he's pretty high on the future of the AF1. It also sounds like he's not a big fan of the paywall in the IFL, and I don't believe he would be back in the NAL. Just my personal, back with the NAL. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong. Plush King says, I love the AF1 too. We do as well, buddy. So appreciate you tuning in. And then Sea-Dog says, I agree too. And then as I mentioned a moment ago, please remember to hit that like button no matter where you're watching. It tells whatever platform you're watching on that you enjoy this content, and it pushes it out to new viewers. Coach B, a couple minutes ago, you might not have heard the question. Krish had a question for you about Hassan Brockman's role. Was that correct? Go ahead, Krish.
Yeah, no, I was wondering, Coach, obviously you're with KC. This is, I think, the biggest game of the season next week with KC and Duluth. You look at, I think Coach B is frozen.
All right. It looks like we're having some issues with Coach B. We'll get him right back on here in a minute when his service clears up. We are going to hit a quick.
If only we could get Coach Tony from Duluth on. Wouldn't that be great to hear what he has to say about Hassan Brockman?
Would love it. And we'll go back down that road at some point. Don't get me wrong. If you have something come up, stuff happens. I get it. Would love to have him on though. Duluth is obviously an up and coming team, fairly new to the market, but they seem to be a juggernaut. So it looks like we got Coach B back, perhaps. Coach, can you hear us okay? Okay, maybe not. All right, we're going to hit a quick commercial break. We'll be right back, and hopefully we can get Coach B's answer on a couple more questions, and then we'll transition over to the NAL. Real quick, though, here's a shout-out to all the shows on Shady Sports Network. If you're a fan of alternative football, we pretty much have every league covered. One more little quick shout out as well. You probably saw it on our social medias, but we have stickers available now. They are not very big, as you can tell in relation to my head. It's definitely a smaller sticker, nice to put on. Basically anything would probably fit on the back of your phone. Hit us up, grab one. They're only $3 shipped to you. And honestly, we'd probably make a deal if you wanted to buy 3 or more. Give them to you. $2, $1, a piece. Just let me know. Again, hit us up in the DMs for that. Then also we have shirts, hoodies, hats, beanies, the whole 9 on brandingblanks.com. Go to the merchandise section or the brand merchandise section. You'll find the Shady Sports lineup. And then we also have shirts for fantasy reports now. And it sounds like we might have another couple items coming out here soon, so keep an eye out on that. Again, that's Branding Blake's. Then check out the Shady Sports Network branded section and grab some merch. It's the best way to support this channel and help us continue to produce great content like the stuff today. Again, if you have been watching today and you enjoyed one of the interviews we've had on, make sure you hit the like button. That's a small little way to reward us and tell us how much you enjoyed this episode. And we've got about 100 people watching. I would love to hit 25 likes total across every platform. So if you guys could do that for us, we'd really appreciate it. Krish, it looks like we lost Coach B. You want to go ahead and just transition over to NAL, and then we'll keep moving forward. If he comes back, we can circle back.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. So got a couple subjects for the NAL, not a ton of them, but one of the big things that I thought was interesting about this upcoming week is you have a upcoming matchup between the Omaha Beef and the Colorado Spartans, who will then turn around and play each other again the following weekend. And if I remember correctly, if Colorado wins this game, it will steal home field advantage for the playoff game. And then the same thing for the Omaha Beef, who, speaking of which, are watching right now. So just kind of interesting how that works. So definitely excited to discuss this game, but give us just a second. It looks like we might nope. All right, Coach B keeps trying to join us. We'll try and figure that out down the road. But yeah, anyways, let's get into this Colorado and Omaha matchup. It seems to be very intriguing. You know, it's always tough to beat teams twice in a row. So what are your overall thoughts on this matchup, Krish?
I'm going to be honest with you. If anyone in the industry, you know, any journalist in the industry thinks that Colorado is going to go into Omaha for the playoffs and beat them, you're crazy. Colorado has no shot to beat Omaha in the playoffs. And I mean that. Fred Shaw and his team, they don't have the emotional strength to be able to beat a team like Omaha in Omaha. They don't. They won't. I'm telling you. Like, everyone is going to be surprised when Omaha wins by 14 points. No, don't be. Omaha is beating Colorado in the playoffs. This week doesn't matter. You know, Coach Negron has been in this situation before. Obviously, Omaha has a better conference record than Colorado because Colorado lost to Sioux City and Omaha beat Sioux City twice. So the conference record is a tiebreaker. So Omaha's, if they lose tonight, hypothetically, there would be one loss, and Colorado would still have two losses. They also have the point differential advantage. They beat Colorado by 20 points when they last played. So as long as they don't lose by like 30, I think. You know what I mean? So they have Omaha basically clinched already. They're already locked in the home field. So I think for Colorado, it's, you know, don't get too high, don't get too low. You know, this game, I mean, I think they're putting too much on this game, right? And so I just Andre Salin not playing from what I've heard. For some sources have told me, I believe Khalil Chapman will be the starting quarterback tonight for them, and so that's a huge game changer, right? And so I don't know. I think Omaha and Coach Negron are more ready for this moment. You know, you remember last year with Coach Negron when he was with us in Carolina, he had an opportunity. He needed to win one of two, right, to go to playoffs. He had to beat Sioux City and Omaha, and they lost both. If you don't think he remembers that and he's bringing that mentality into this game, you're crazy. So I think he's ready, and I think Omaha is going to roll over Colorado for sure.
Fair point. I was not aware about that on the tiebreaker. So if that's the case and they do have to go into Omaha, definitely have my concerns about that. Obviously, there aren't many harsher environments to play in terms of opposing teams than the Slaughterhouse. Obviously, they have very, very supportive fans. They almost always sell out. That is not a fun place to play as far as the fact that there's so much fan support, obviously. So Omaha Beef says, strongly disagree with you on that statement, Krish. Colorado is a tough team. Colorado wins and they get the home game next week. Overall record is the first tiebreaker with win percentage. Okay.
Yeah, that's not what a head coach in the league told me. So, I mean, that might be that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. So, I mean, Colorado is a tough team. I'm not discounting them, but like, don't play. I know what this is. Don't play down. You know what I mean? Like, you're the better team. You got the better defense. That offense is not ready. The offense is not ready for Omaha's defense. And they got Chris Perry coming back, and we'll talk about Tommy later. But nah, I'm telling you, Omaha is beating Colorado by 10 to 14 points in the playoffs. So
now seems like a pretty good time to talk about Tommy. So Tommy Gunn's back. That's right. Tommy Armstrong has re-signed with the Omaha Beef just in time for the playoff run. It's almost like a story. The juggernaut team that has not lost a game in 2 seasons. They struggle in the preseason. Everybody starts to question them. They have to make a head coaching change mid-season. They get a new coach in there. All of a sudden, they find their rhythm. Even though they lose their first regular season game in 2 seasons, almost 3 seasons, and then the prodigal son Tommy Armstrong returns to the team just in time for the playoff run. And a very crucial game this weekend. So, Krish, you were the one who broke the news. What are your thoughts? Tommy Armstrong's damn near as good as it gets when it comes to indoor football quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm Adam Schefter, Stephen A., and, Scott Manpelt all one. So I had to let him know, I run this industry. But anyway, so I think, Tommy coming back to Omaha is huge. I think Coach Negron and Ricky Burris, man, I'm telling you, people look at that duo and they really don't give it the respect it deserves. They're both on demon time. And this is just another example of them making a move that's going to benefit them in the long term. And it's going to give them that edge. Having a guy like Tommy in, and it's not even people look at it like, oh, Lorenzo Brown. Lorenzo Brown can really good football. Really good. He's only turned over the ball. I appreciate that. But he's only turned over the ball 2 times. 1 interception, 1 fumble. And so I'm really impressed with the play of Lorenzo Brown. I know he struggled in the past. Last year when he went to Arizona, he had a 10-touchdown, 9-interception performance. So he was a little off at some points. But he's still a vet and he still understands the game. You bring in a guy like Tommy, who obviously, I don't need to talk about Tommy. We all know what, he's capable of and he can do. So I think Tommy can push Lorenzo, and they worked together in a quarterback room before in Sioux Falls. So they have that familiarity with each other. And I think they can help, the younger guys maybe understand the offense even better. And so this is just a power move. And even if they both play, it gives them a huge advantage. I know Tommy might be a little rusty coming back. So, Lorenzo can come in, they can switch out. Tommy can even be a 3rd down and 3, option quarterback, going forward. So there's so many different combinations. I'm excited. I'm excited to see this. This move pushes Omaha over the edge, and I think brings them their 3rd championship in 3 years. So
I have a hard time disagreeing with you on that statement. Huge fan of Tommy Armstrong. I think he fits the indoor football style very well. And honestly, I think Coach Negron's going to have a lot of fun planning with him. I'm beginning to think he's running the Omaha Beef account with all these comments because he says Lorenzo Brown will make the Hall of Fame. He probably will and probably should, if we're being honest, in the IFL. But this is the comment that gets me. This has to be Coach Negron. The Beef would never say this without him behind it. Just saying. We all know they run the industry. Just messing with you, Krish. So we have Coach B back. We're going to transition briefly back to the TAL, and then we will go back into the NAL.
All right, Coach B. Finally, I get the opportunity to ask you this question, barring any internet issues. So next week, right, Duluth and Kansas City, right, the biggest matchup of the TAL season, I think, in my opinion, right? You got Coach Tony, the Evil Empire in Duluth, and then you got KC, right, the underdogs, quote unquote. Talk to me about Hassan Brockman and how much of an advantage he gives Duluth and how you plan to contain him.
What's the advantage?
His versatility.
Everybody got versatility. They had that last year. I think they best player is number 14. He was like that last year, and he liked that this year. But look where you coming to. You got to be golden. Who the only team got an undefeated record against Duluth?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You know what I'm saying? We just gonna keep doing what we do over here in St. Joe. If we're gonna make it do what it do, we're gonna go out play our game, and we gonna let the scoreboard do the talking.
The only thing, Coach B, is I've told you about this before too, is the quarterback spot, right? There hasn't been an official announcement on who the quarterback's going to be, and not having Cato is my only concern. If you have Cato, like I said, you would beat Duluth by 10, 12 points, and you would humble them for sure. But now you don't have Cato. How are you planning to work around that?
We got a quarter. We got a darn good quarterback too. So get ready to see. Get y'all popcorn ready. Get y'all garage beer out. Get everything ready. Sit down at the table. And let's have fun and play some football.
I'm excited. I'm excited for sure. I mean, that receiving core is highly underrated. Boo Smith, Mo Strong, Ryan Martinez. I appreciate you, Coach. I always love you and appreciate you. I can't wait for the championship run. Boo Smith, Ryan Martinez, and Mo Strong, and then Malik Wilson, a young kid you've been high on. And then Jalen Jeffries. I know you're a huge Jalen Jeffries fan. I haven't seen Jalen Jeffries in full capacity yet. So I'm excited to see what you told me. I won't say what you said, but you said he looks good. So I hope to see him, ball out for sure. I think it's going to be.
We got the number one receiving core in the league.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm excited to see.
We got the reigning MVP and the second best receiver in the league. Then we added Mo Strong, and Malik Wilson probably got the best hands out of any receiver in the league.
Oh, yeah, I know Mo Strong is about to go off. That's not – Mo Strong is about to put 150 on Duluth. You know what I mean? Like, he wants blood with Duluth. And the thing is like, I respect Duluth. They have a great team. I picked them to win the championship for a reason. But they don't have a DB on that team that can cover this version of Boo Smith. You got to understand, Boo Smith has had a full offseason to work and rehab and get right. And he was hurt at the end of last year too. So I'm excited to see.
Hey, we don't call him the weapon for nothing.
Man, I was just gonna let you guys cook for a minute there. You had a good dialogue going. So let's go ahead and go back to the NAL. Coach B, obviously you've spent a lot of time in that Iowa market, that Omaha area as well. What are your thoughts about Tommy Armstrong returning to the Beef?
That's the hometown hero. So what you expect? Like like you said, you don't get no better than Tommy Armstrong on that level. And in this game, he knows the beef in and out. He bleeds Omaha beef. Just coming back is just like really retooling, and just I'm glad to see what they got. But the crazy thing about it, everybody was talking about the signing. Like I told Chris, it was a double whammy because Chris Perry came back as well. So they added something to their defense and to the offense. So it's been crazy.
Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out because Chris Perry kind of caught my attention when I noticed he was on the transaction wire as well. Obviously has won the championship with Omaha in the past. So they're bringing back a lot of the quote unquote old heads to kind of, steer the ship moving forward, which I tend to like, especially given this late in the season. So anything else you want to touch on with the NAL or the Colorado Omaha matchup, Krish?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Wheeling Miners. I want you guys to start, and then I'll finish. I have a lot to say about the Wheeling Miners. I'm going to try to put it in the most respectful, professional way possible. But I'll let you guys go, and then I'll go last.
What are you looking for an opinion on specifically? Just how their season unfolded?
Yeah, just the hype about them preseason and then missing the playoffs. That's
obviously not ideal. I will 100% take responsibility for the fact that we were a large part of that hype. Krish, both you and I included. So definitely will say that we were very high on Wheeling before the season. Still, I am very high on Wheeling going forward, to be honest. Yes, they did not have a promising season this year. I don't think that takes anything away from what they'll do in the future. Maybe that's just me. I actually am very excited about the quarterback that they brought in for this final week of the season. Honestly, so good. The dude probably will not be there next season. He might be back outdoors, to be honest with you. That's CJ Ogbonna from Buffalo. Really talented guy, dual threat quarterback. Very excited to see what he can do for Wheeling this weekend. And I'm sure there's a lot of other teams around a lot of other leagues that are keeping an eye on what's going on with that situation as well. I'm excited to see the fact that Wheeling is not just going out quietly. It's the end of the year. They're eliminated from the playoffs. They could easily just lay down and plug in whoever they happen to have on the roster already and move forward with another loss on their record, and it wouldn't be nothing really changes, right? But instead, Coach Rez, to the bitter end, is still trying to figure it out and make improvements on the team and still keep that winning mentality. So I know it can be tough when you're eliminated from the playoffs, but I respect the Wheeling Miners organization for that and then still making these moves late in the season, because I would be willing to bet, and this is speculation. I do not have any inside information on this one, but I'd be willing to bet Ogbonna did not come cheap. So for Wheeling to shell out that money for him to come in and play one game with them at the end of the season, I believe that's indicative of an organization that truly cares about winning. So, in spite of everything else, I think they still have a promising future. I don't think Wheeling's going anywhere anytime soon, but I know that you have a lot more insight on that situation than I do, so I'll go ahead and give you the floor.
Yeah, obviously I have a lot of respect for Wheeling. Coach Rez, I've shown Coach Rez a lot of respect, even when he hasn't shown me the same respect. But I keep it 100 regardless. So for me, I think, Wheeling is, I think how does this game affect his legacy overall? Well, he's 19-23 all time in the NAL. And if he wins tonight, it'll be his 20th career win. And so that's a big milestone for a head coach, in this league where it's hard, to get your 20th career win. And I think for him, he does so much more than coach, right? And I think people lose sight of that. He's everything there, right? He runs that program. He does the marketing. He's what Coach Negron was last year for Carolina. And I think we need to get to a point, in the industry, and this is a wide industry-wide conversation about how can we reduce the load on head coaches so they don't have to be the director of marketing, director of ticket sales, sponsorships, doing 50 things, and then you're expected to put out a winning product on Saturdays. I think that's a huge disadvantage. Obviously, bringing Sean Lyotta in was supposed to fix the offense. Coach Rez should have took over offensive play calling by week 2. Honestly, I believe that would have been the best decision for him to move forward with that. And I think, honestly, Wheeling would be in the playoffs if he was calling the offense. That's how good of a football mind he is, up and down. And so I respect Coach Rez again, and I think in the offseason there needs to be conversation about what type of guys they're going to bring in and how they fit their culture. Because, it makes me upset when I see a guy like CJ Kane and, Alex Coleman, these vets, busting their ass every play. And then I see certain guys out there, they look like they're tapped out by the third quarter. So, it's important to, bring guys that really fit his culture. And so, it's going to be a hard offseason for him. I won't lie. It's going to be a lot of, reflecting, very emotional offseason. And, I know it's going to be hard for him to watch that Omaha playoff game. But, I'm excited. So I'm really excited for Omaha. I can't keep talking about Omaha. I sound like an Omaha fan, but it's too, I'm a Coach Negron fan. So it makes me an Omaha fan by default, So I'm excited for Coach Rez. Me and Coach Rez are going to be enjoying the Omaha playoff game from the same spot, at our houses. So it's going to be fun.
Yep. There's the Stephen A. Smith of the conversation for sure. You always have a couple hot takes to throw out there. So definitely appreciate that about you, Krish. You definitely don't pull any punches. I'll say that for sure. But we will move on to our final subject of the day. This has been a great episode. Thank you guys all for hanging out with us. Have one of our largest live audiences this season so far, 107 viewers. Still less than 25 likes, though. So you guys need to go down there and smash that like button real quick. Would really appreciate that. Again, no matter where you're watching, it helps us continue to grow this show and continue to get in front of more people. It's really important to what we do here at Shady Sports Network, and I honestly can't say enough about how much it helps us just by hitting that one button that is completely free to do, by the way. So also, if you have not done so, jump over to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel, help us get to that 2,000 mark where last time I checked, we are 77 subscribers away from 2,000. Would love to hit that number before the end of June. And then, hopefully you guys stick with us and continue to watch the shows that we have coming out, because we've got a large lineup of great programming coming for you. But yeah, let's go ahead and transition over to our locks of the week, brought to you by YouTube TV. And I'll go ahead and get those pulled up. All right, we're going to start with DraftKings and the IFL, and here is that website. Again, if you are not familiar with the betting procedures for arena football, there are only 2 leagues that have the ability to bet on them. Give me just a moment. Apparently, this backed up on me. So you've got the Indoor Football League, which is on DraftKings, as you can see. And then you also have the AF1, which is on Better Edge, which we'll talk about in just a moment there. But as you can see on the screen right now, this is your odds for the week. You've got the Northern Arizona Wranglers traveling to San Diego Strike Force. They are 6.5-point underdogs. You've got San Antonio traveling to Tucson. They're 4.5-point underdogs, over under of 79.5. You have Arizona traveling to Vegas, which are actually favored to win in Vegas by 3 points, a 92.5-point over. Now, Krish, I know you're pretty well. What are you betting on this week? I have a feeling that over-under on Arizona and Vegas is on your list.
Right. So I started out my Thursday night, with plus 7.5. Massachusetts Pirates, Jacksonville Sharks. I took math on the money line. Obviously, that that was a good decision. That's my advice for the rest of the industry. Is if you're betting on the IFL, a disclaimer is you should pick mass money line the rest of the season, because it's really death row in this bitch. So believe that. But anyway, Northern Arizona, San Diego, man, Coach Ron James, man, we might need to get that man a wheelchair by once he hits 10 losses. I mean, he's never been in this situation before, so it's a hard thing for him. He's 1-7. I think San Diego has the advantage. I want to see about Nate Davis, though, about his injury. He's been in and out of the lineup. Rudy Johnson is great, but in my opinion, and this is no disrespect to Rudy, I have a lot of respect for him as the family man. They can't win with Rudy Johnson in the playoffs. So he's not going to take them over the hump. He can't throw the football. So I like San Diego to win this game minus 6.5. Much concern as I had about Rudy Johnson, I have even more concern about Sia Burley in that offense. Even though they look better on the Ramon Atkins. So give me San Diego minus 6.5. San Antonio, Tucson. I mean, I'll take Coach Fuller any day of the week. You know what I mean? And I think he's 2-6. I can't see him going 2-7. So give me San Antonio plus 4.5. I know there's concern about the quarterback spot. I like San Antonio plus 4.5, and I like them on the money line as well. Arizona and Vegas. Man, this is going to be a burner. Like you said, I love the over. This is going to be a lot of points. Vegas is upset, man. Mike Davis. I'm not saying Mike Davis is on the hot seat, quote unquote, but I'm sure ownership has been like, what's going on, man? We're 4-4. I mean, our payroll is kind of high. There's no secret. Vegas like to shell out money for a couple players. So I think there's a lot of pressure. So I like Vegas plus 3. I like Vegas on the money line, and I like over 92.5 for sure.
Absolutely. So those were your locks of the week for DraftKings and Indoor Football League. We're going to transition over to Better Edge and the AF1. Obviously, we only have one game tonight. Got a couple tomorrow, which there you see. Again, just a disclaimer that we always like to throw out there. You see this little liquidity portion here at the bottom. Those are the bets that are placed already. As you can tell, the gray boxes up here have not been bet on. The blue have been bet on. You have to have a corresponding opposite bet in order for your bet to actually go through. Otherwise, they just expire. That is, again, just a disclaimer for everybody. But it's nice to see after a couple weeks ago when we didn't have any bets at all, we actually have bets on every single game this week. So glad to see that. Go on there. If you have any sort of inkling on betting for the AF1, you might as well go do it now. The season's starting to come to a close. So get on there, put in your bets, and let us know what you bet on this week in the comments below. Krish, what are your locks of the week for these three games?
Washington, I've been nice about it, all season because, in my other role as a scout, you kind of have to tone it down on some things, right? You don't want to show your bias too much. Washington is a joke. And I'll say it now. I'm done. I'm done pulling back punches. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to give my guys the opportunity. This is what happens. All right. So, you can keep going with Nino Sports, all these other agencies, man, and don't give my guys the opportunities. This is what's going to happen. So it's disappointing. And that was no shot at Gabe and Nino Sports. That was just the first one that came to mind. But I think I'm just so mad that Washington puts this product out on the field week after week. They signed Kobe Martin, former Wichita regulator. He's a mobile quarterback. He's not a passer. Same thing with Adam Cruz. I mean, why do they keep rolling out the same quarterbacks week after week? And it's not even the quarterbacks at this point. It's the O-line. The O-line is terrible. They have the worst O-line in all of arena indoor football, in my opinion. And, I just think there needs to be more accountability as a whole. I'm very disappointed. And especially, what makes me disappointed is the fourth down. The way they punt on fourth down, they just give up. They give up possessions. They give up at least 5 possessions per game by punting. You know what I mean? And so I just feel bad for my boy Akil, free AG till it's backwards. But give me Salina. I love Rakeem Cato. He's going to have a hell of an outing. I expect Malik Honeycutt to have 4 touchdowns. And, Salina, give me Salina minus 20.5 and give me the under at 72.5. So.
All right. We'll look at the Sunday games. We've got Corpus Christi traveling to Nashville, and then Billings versus Oregon.
So Corpus, I think they get a lot of flack. They signed a new center, former Omaha Beef, Robbie Malcolm. Robbie struggled in Omaha. There's no secret about that. I think he's a talented player. I think he has a slightly higher ceiling than Alex Sile does. But I think he's a good player. And I think obviously losing Cortavius Workman to the LFA is a huge blow to that receiving core. He had 3 touchdowns his first game back. You lose him to Mexico. You have obviously Richard Anderson is still going to play a huge role in that receiving core. I don't think they have enough playmakers to get vertical, to be honest. And I think Nashville D-line is insane. So I like obviously Nashville on the money line, and I like the under in this game. And the spread, I want to go Corpus, but I'm a little hesitant, so I'm going to stay away from the spread.
Fair enough. What are your thoughts on the Billings-Oregon game?
My boy Malik was disrespected last week on the internet by a lot of people. They said he was, he watched because he threw 4 picks. You know what I mean? Malik was trying to make plays when plays weren't there, and that's what great quarterbacks do. So I expect him to come out firing 5 to 6 touchdowns easily. He's going to get, he just he reached over 7,000 career passing yards. He's the only 5th active quarterback in Arena Indoor to pass that milestone. So congratulations to him on that great accomplishment. Man, I think Billings is about to smack Oregon. Honestly, give me Billings minus 8.5 easily. I want to say under on this game, and yeah, for sure. I wish you could do player props because I would bet Malik Henry like 8 touchdowns easily. But my opinion.
Just a slight bit of bias. If there's anything I love about Krish, it's that, first of all, he will not hide his bias from you. Not at all. Doesn't even try to sugarcoat it either. And then on top of that, he sticks by players. He loves Malik Henry. There's a reason why we had him on the network recently. Krish hosted that interview completely 100% because of him. So definitely love to see that. And I forgot an IFL subject, so I wanted to hammer one more real little thing home for the viewers before we get out of here. Iowa, they've hit a little patch in their season where they're still losing, unfortunately, but they have scored 256 points in the last 5 games since James Cahoon took over as their starting quarterback. He is 5th right now in the league in total passing touchdowns, despite the fact that he's played less games than almost everybody else in the top 10. He's played like 3 less games than a lot of the quarterbacks that stand ahead of him. Has Iowa finally found their quarterback?
So James Cahoon, I have a lot of familiarity with him. He's from the Northeast. He's a Massachusetts kid. He went to Bridgewater State. And if any of you, know Northeast football like I do, we don't get a lot of talent up here. You know what I mean? It's hard to find a guy from a Division 3 school that can really come in and contribute at a high level. James Cahoon is that guy. I see the throws he makes. He threads the needle very well. He makes rookie mistakes. He's a rookie. But I think they found a quarterback. I'm telling you, I like James Cahoon. He has all the talent in the world to be a great quarterback in the league. And he reminds me a lot of rookie Jerome Johnson. I remember when Jerome came in as a rookie and he struggled at times, but he showed flashes. James Cahoon has shown me those same flashes. He reminds me of Brett Favre, honestly, the way he plays football. And so I'm excited to watch James Cahoon down the stretch. He's a good kid too. So
I agree. He's a guy I happened to connect with this past offseason. Was kind of sending out his film, trying to get in front of every coach he could. And from what I understand, he ended up going to the Vegas Nighthawks tryout and got signed based off that tryout. Ended up sticking with Vegas for a little while. And if I know anything about Mike Davis whatsoever, I have a feeling that he let Calhoun go and gave a glowing reference to Dave Mogensen in Iowa. He tends to do these things and kind of set up his players to move on, when he does have to make a move. So there's probably a good chance that there was some kind words said about Cahoon to Iowa before he went in there. But yeah, like you said, Bridgewater State kind of legend, so to speak. I mean, his numbers aren't crazy by any stretch, but definitely an efficient quarterback. Definitely was excited to see him get an opportunity and ultimately, show out. He does have 11 interceptions. Don't get me wrong, 11 interceptions in 5 games, but he has also got 22 passing touchdowns. Big kid, 6'5", 6'4", somewhere in that range, about 220 pounds, definitely can ball. So excited to see him get that opportunity with Iowa, and hopefully he can continue to play moving forward. But Krish, this has been quite the episode, man. We've had representatives from 4 different teams, either on the show live or in the comments, kind of, throwing some jabs out there. So we really appreciate everybody who tuned in, everybody who joined us this morning. Thank you to Steven Titus. Thank you to Coach Brandon Henderson. And then also thank you to Coach Tias. That was his first time on the network. For anybody who's not aware, very excited that we were able to get him on. And, obviously right after a win too. So great timing. Thank you once again, Krish, for setting that one up. Any final thoughts before we get out of here today?
Yeah, no, I appreciate all the support on the show. It means a lot to see people kind of that want to grow the game, and want to tune in and support. So 109 viewers is amazing. I only want to see the show continue to grow. I think this is the best indoor show out there on the market. And yeah, just continue to tune in. And like I said earlier, man, my Massachusetts Pirates, we finally turned the corner. So I don't want to hear any of you journalists out there. If I see any of you at AF1 Media Day in Albany, New York, June 29th, you got to see me. If you ever disrespected us, you're going to have to see me. So that won't be fun. So I'm just excited. We're about to go on this run. Like I said, it's death row in this bitch every single week. We got Indy and Dixie Woo next, and I hope they're ready. So let's go Pirates.
Like I said, never pull any punches. Always got some hot takes to say. Yeah, I would also say that there's still a chance Albany's not in the championship, especially if they end up having to play Billings in that
Man,
first
I want
round.
Albany and Southwest Kansas so bad. Like in the championship, I want to see Coach Thomas, man. Like I want to see how he handles adversity going into Albany a second time. I mean, losing to them by a combined 125 points is crazy in 2 games. And so can he really ride the ship and really get it right? And so I'm excited, man. I'm a huge Coach Thomas guy, so I hope we see them in the championship. I like Coach Arbet and Coach Payne in Nashville, but Southwest will be a funner matchup, I feel like.
I mean, regardless, I feel like, we're very lucky that we're in a situation where the NAL's in the last week of the regular season. There are playoff implications on the line, in multiple games there. Also, the AF1's nearing the end of their season. I believe we have 3 weeks left. And again, playoff implications spread out through all that the league. I believe there's still 5 teams in the hunt. So basically, sorry, Coach Wells, but Washington is essentially the only team that's completely eliminated at this point. I believe Corpus Christi also still has an opportunity to make the playoffs. So definitely interesting to see how it's unfolded, but a lot of great games coming up, a lot of good matchups, a lot of very important games coming up from all the teams that are playing. Those 2 games between Salina and Southwest Kansas have huge implications on the 2nd seed and the 4th seed. Then the Nashville game against Billings, again, has huge implications on their seeding, and then also Billings potentially making the playoffs if they win out. Oregon, if they win against Billings, all of a sudden their case to make the playoffs becomes more important. So, I mean, there's so many important games coming up in these 2 leagues that are nearing the end of their season. And then the IFL, I mean, they're halfway through their year, but there are a lot of great games coming up as well. I mean, Tulsa and Quad City was a great game. Not very high scoring, but that was a matchup of 2 very talented teams who I'm sure we'll see in the playoffs later this season. So great.
Good free agents out there. We forgot to mention DJ Myers and Guy Myers are both free agents. Which team, lands both of them as the package deal? I don't know, but I would love to see Guy and DJ play together.
I would love to see that as well. And I mean, I don't know what kind of budget that Washington has to work with. I don't know if they would even consider it, but I would definitely be calling Guy Myers and DJ Myers and trying to see what it would take to get them up there. Even if it's just for a couple games to close out the season, give your fans a little bit of hope moving forward. And, you never know. You never know where you might end up. We got a comment from Arena Football here. Go Ruggiero. Love to see, some Ruggiero fans tuning in as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We have jumped recently to 120 viewers. So once again, one last request to hit that like button. Help us hit 25 likes on this video, no matter what platform you're tuning in. I'm sure we can hit that no problem, especially with the viewers catching the recording. Again, we have stickers available. They're not very big, as you can tell, but $3 shipped to you. You can also get, say 3. If you buy 3 or more, we'll give you a deal on them. DM us for details on that. Also check out our merchandise at brandingblanks.com, Shady Sports Network branded version or section. You can catch all the different things that we have coming out for the Shady Sports brand. There's a lot more.
I do have one question, and just close it out. Which team down the stretch, and I'm talking IFL, which team do you think, and don't say us, just to say us, which team do you think makes the most amount of transactional movement down the stretch?
Man, that's a hard question to answer because, I mean, especially recently, there's been a lot of teams turning over their rosters. But if I had to guess, just based on where all the teams stand currently, I could see a situation where Tulsa makes a lot of moves, because they're kind of getting banged up at this point. But then also just where they stand in the playoff race, they're going to want to make sure that they can stay within that 6-3 mark and kind of stick with Green Bay and Jacksonville going forward. And then also stay ahead of a team like Mass that's kind of creeping there on the outside of the playoff rush. Vegas, definitely keep an eye on them. They're going to be making some moves for sure. San Diego, you kind of alluded to it a little bit ago. Nate Davis is hurt, so I expect them to be making some moves, especially at quarterback. Maybe we see a situation where they bring in some other players around him. So that'll be interesting as well. So I definitely think there's a lot of different situations out there that makes some sense as to teams that we could see a lot of transactions out of. Maybe San Diego is where we see Guy Myers land. Just a thought, it's pretty nice city to play in. If you can bring your brother, it definitely would make a lot of sense for them, especially knowing that they have a playoff stretch.
Because you look at their team, they really, since hiring Adam Shackelford at their OC, they really switched to a more run-pass balance. I believe San Diego, last time I checked, it averaged 17 rush attempts per game. And so that shows me they're willing to accommodate to a more mobile quarterback. And so that's a good point that you brought up. My team, I think that will make the most transactional movement down the stretch is Tucson. I think Billy Back is starting to feel the heat a little bit. I know they're 3-4, but they got a tough schedule coming up down the stretch. And then Jacksonville. Jacksonville has a rough stretch coming up. They got, I believe, next they got Arizona, then they go Green Bay, and then they got Quad City, and then they got Tulsa. That's a hard 4-game stretch. And so if they drop Arizona next week and they go 6-4, I could see some serious changes coming to Jacksonville. It's also interesting to see what they do with Caleb Barker and Tyler Huff going forward. So
that's a very intriguing quarterback room, and that's a subject we'll definitely be touching on going forward. Honestly, probably should have touched on it today, but we had an IFL guest this morning. So either way, really appreciate all the support on the show, man. It seems like every week we get a better and better audience. So really appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. If you haven't done so already, make sure you share this stream with all of your indoor football friends. We would like to tap every corner of this community.
How many times a week?
Like three or four times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
That's right. If you haven't shared this yet, let's get this shared out. We really appreciate all your help. We really appreciate all of our sponsors that make it possible for us to continue to create great content. And we always appreciate all the support from all the fans that tune in, use those sponsors, or, look into our merch. So with that being said, we will catch you guys next week. Lots to cover every week here on Around the Indoor Football World. And with more leagues starting up, with the TAL and ENTFLA starting their schedules quickly, there's only more to talk about going forward. Looking forward to a great rest of the season, and we will be here every week all the way through August. So stick with us every Saturday.
I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer.